So I'm here with Mark Burton and Richard Golly Starzak. What characteristics best qualify someone to work for Aardman Animations?
Strong comedy sense, desire to be silly,
strong social dysfunction.
Strong social dysfunction, yes. Bad breath.
I think you have to have a passion for the craft. I think you have to be, I think everybody works at Aardman in all the different jobs. There's a kind of commitment and a passion to what they do. I mean, they would do it anyway if they weren't getting paid.
It's a very vocational thing, actually. Most of the people that we take on, we're kind of interested in filmmaking and making films from a very young age. They didn't need to be pushed to do it. They would just love doing what they do.
Mm. So let's talk about Shaun the Sheep, now the star of Shaun the Sheep Movie. For the uninitiated, can you give us a crash course in Shaun's history from Nick Park's Notebook to movie star?
Okay, Shaun first appeared in A Close Shave many years ago now, probably nearly 20 years ago. He only had a bit part in the film, a very small part. He was a very young sheep. But anecdotally, we kind of sensed that he was going to be very popular. He's a lovely design character from Nick Park designs, very iconic design. And then a mere 11 years later, I helped devise and direct and write on the first series. And the rest is history. He took off and became a very international star, playing in 170 territories. And so then it seemed the right time to make a movie.
And he got sort of a little bit of a design aging up, right? He's more of a teenager now than...
Yeah, we've stretched him out a little, short of giving him horns. We've kind of made, I think we kind of settled on a kind of 10-year-old boy, the idea of him being like a 10-year-old boy.
Mm. Yeah. So after being accustomed to writing 7-minute stories, was it difficult at all shifting gears to feature length, or perhaps was the converse true? Did you have, having this epic scale, did you have to contain your imagination?
Well, it was a bit of both, really. I mean, I think... we went from 7 minutes to 85 minutes, and immediately we knew that I think sort of two big things really. One was that we would have to start the story in the world of the TV series, but take them to a new world, and sort of another canvas to explore, which was a city, which was kind of the converse of the country. It's fairly obvious idea in a way. But then we also wanted to give them a big emotional story, and the characters in the series do have emotional lives, but I think we kind of really dug into that a bit more. And create a kind of more of a sort of, if you want to reach in and find it, there's a kind of family dynamic going on within the story. And it's really about, I think the story's about, learning to appreciate the people you love and have in life, not take them for granted.
Mm. So just how popular is Shaun globally? Can you give us a sense of that?
Yeah, it never fails to surprise me. I knew that having no dialogue would possibly help with a few international sales, but now it plays 170 different territories. So and is loved as far afield as China, Japan, Gulf states, the Middle East, Australia. I mean, it's just popular throughout Europe. Very popular everywhere. So it's quite global reach now.
Yeah, he travels well. Have you made any tweaks to the film for foreign markets? Has that even been necessary?
Actually, not really. I mean, I think in some markets they've just changed some of the actual writing, or the captions. Or there's a few moments where we cheat slightly and we use written things just to help the story along. But on the whole, we don't need to change anything. We haven't revoiced anything. We've got lots of British voice talent doing lots of mumbling, and the Chinese did wonder at one point, when we were asked by a Chinese journalist whether we should have had Chinese mumblers, but we stuck with the British ones. We thought they were good enough.
So you've touched on one of the most distinctive things about the film, which is the lack of conventional dialogue.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the art of semi-intelligible gibberish or grunting?
We're very good at that, actually, Richard.
Yeah. Well, it's quite secondary to the sort of performance, really. We kind of we try as far as possible to have them not say anything. I mean, we kind of we add the mumbling for comedy or to help story point. But generally, we try to keep it as dialogue free as possible, even the mumbling. So, but yeah, it's great fun. We've got a guy called John Sparks who voices the farmer in Bitzer, and he's got a kind of Welsh mumbling. And we discovered when we were trying to find a sort of a mumble for the farmer, John said that he's got this kind of Welsh mumble that really annoys his wife. It sounds like somebody talking to themselves. They walk around going, and it used to annoy his wife. And he said that we tried that and it worked brilliantly.
So yeah, that's one comic tradition of sort of double talk, and another one obviously is silent physical comedy, which you've drawn from. Are there any sight gags in the movie that you straight ripped from Buster Keaton or Jacques Tati or Rowan Atkinson?
Well, actually, there are some, but not consciously. I mean, there's one joke which we created ourselves. We thought it would be very fresh and funny, which is there's a gag where somebody's in hospital and they think someone's coming in to do some very unpleasant tests with a giant hammer, and actually they're just a handyman fixing the picture on the wall. And then we watched a Buster Keaton film, and that joke was in the Buster Keaton film. But we would argue that we'd come up with it independently of Buster, but he was there first, obviously.
Yes, you do. I mean, you, without doubt, you kind of accumulate comedy in your head, and maybe it's not. We never sure whether it's our own or somebody else's. I think you kind of tend to use jokes that you kind of accumulate.
I think what we did do, I think we were very self-aware. We watched silent movies and we steeped ourselves in that world a bit. And so there are some set pieces in our movie which kind of pay homage to that, chaos in restaurants and things like that. That kind of, I think you'll recognise from a Charlie Chaplin movie in terms of that kind of scenario.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed online that part of the fun for Aardman fans seems to be to play that kind of spot the reference game.
That's true. Yeah.
And I guess I wonder what some of the influences were from pop culture, or from cinema, or from animation that influenced the characters, or the character writing or design, or like I know the new character of Trumper has been inspired by a couple of other characters, for example.
Yeah.
Yes, I think. Just to go back to the flock for a second, I think when they're being dragged behind the caravan, that was definitely Keystone. I was thinking Keystone Cops in that case. As for Trumpet,
well, I think there was there's a movie that we did actually watch. Was a useful template. It was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Obviously not a silent movie, but you've got a Boolean central character who kind of goes into the city and kind of changes the world around a little bit. And what was so great about that movie was they've got a villain character, and he's the kind of headmaster character. It's not about him. Him being the villain is not the A story, if you like. He's just another problem, for the central character. So we felt that's what we wanted Trumper to be. We wanted Trumper to be, somebody that was in the story, that was a problem, that was adding jeopardy, but it wasn't really about him. So I guess we were influenced by that.
Mm-hmm. So I would describe this as an all-ages comedy adventure. I was actually quite surprised that here in America it's rated PG.
Yeah.
PG for rude humor.
Yes.
I'm hard-pressed to remember what actually qualifies as rude humor in it, but and I know in the UK it has a U rating, right, which is qualifies
not
as
rude enough.
suitable for all, right?
Yes.
Yeah, universal. Anyway, is rating even a consideration until you get one? Do you think about that during the process?
We didn't think about it too much. I mean, really, we thought it generally because Shaun is, plays to 8 to 10-year-olds that we would probably get a U rating. We do have the odd. I think one of the rude bits of humour was maybe the pantomime horse's backside, and it's a pantomime horse. It's not real.
Yeah,
so
right.
I thought that'd be okay.
Yeah.
We kind of have our own sort of moral code, in that we would never cynically, so let's put something in to get a PG rating or whatever, to try and age it up artificially. Sometimes our humour leads us in a certain direction. And we have got one photo of the farmer who's got no clothes on. But it's all done very respectfully, and tastefully. But actually, I think also we wouldn't feel comfortable if there were things in it that we felt children can watch and enjoy. So
we do kind of tend to think of Shaun the movie. One of the best quotes I heard about it was from one of our voice artists. Said it's an adult film you can take your kids to, which I thought summed it up very well. Our approach to it.
So, what's the role of CGI when you're doing stop motion animation? Do you have any commandments about how not to use it?
Not really. I mean, it's just a technique, and it was a pleasure for us to try to do everything in camera, because part of the enjoyment of it, just the process, is problem solving. You know, how do we make this splash? How do we do this crash through the hedge? This is all the fun part for us on the studio floor. But occasionally you want water to look more like water, then you can make it on a stop frame. I think we used it twice, CG twice in the entire film, just once for a splash, and once for some rain. We used it very sparingly, but because it's fun to do everything in camera.
Yeah. So what is the scale of the clay models to real life? Is it roughly like an inch to a foot, or?
Do you know, that's an interesting.
Somebody told us it was 1/8, which sounded quite good to me. We actually know. It's that scale.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there they are. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've got everything around that sort of scale.
The interesting thing might be is that actually Shaun is very small. That you see him here. It's actually very small scale, and some of the shots on the big screen are purely his eyeballs.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of reason for that, is that when we start to make Shaun the TV series, if I made the farmer the same size as Wallace, in which case I could borrow some of the things, sets and props. So it's a practical consideration. As a result, that's the way it stayed.
Yeah. I was going to ask too. I assume everything's handcrafted in house, but are you ever able to pull in doll furniture or something like that, or is it all?
There's a little bit of satisfaction from the prop makers if they find something that works, you know. So occasionally, we all tend to scout charity shops or thrift shops, and hey, there's a bicycle that looks like the right scale, you know, and that's quite satisfying to do that sometimes.
So are reshoots common when you in stop motion, or when you work at this pace, or does storyboarding basically mean you have it down to a science in advance?
We did have space for reshoots. I think it was very important because it was very important to get the storytelling right. I don't think we did a great deal of reshoots.
No, I think what happens is you try and do as much of the work as possible before the shot is animated. It's not good for morale. It's not good. Animators can spend days working on one shot, and then to turn it down, can be very hard for them. If it has to be done, it's done. What does happen is that it's a bit like filling in a jigsaw puzzle. That as you get more of the movie shot, you kind of go, that's not right, or we're missing that. And that's when you go, and we had a little reshoot thing at the end. So we mocked up a few bits and pieces that we weren't entirely happy with. And so you end up with as much as possible that you enjoy.
And I suppose since you're shooting it frame by frame, really, right? Or
absolutely, yeah.
It must be not too difficult to insert. If you need like a little bit more of pacing.
You can't really do that. I mean, there is more stuff that can be done now in edit, where you can sort of get into shots and you can fiddle with them a bit. But generally, you don't want to do that. You want to try and keep it organic. And it's much better to try and, if you have to, if there is a mistake in a shot, you have to redo it, really.
Yeah, the insertion is actually quite difficult because it's quite easy to. What we sometimes do is we visit on the set. If part of the shot isn't right, we can cut back, move forward, but to actually just insert a piece is very difficult. So yeah.
Well, I have to wrap up here, but last question. There's a kind of fist bumping motif in the movie, and I wondered if that's a thing around Aardman, or is it just because it's funny watching animals fist bump?
Oh, good question. Well, there's two fist bumps in the movie, aren't there? I think they're both between animals.
Yeah, there's a bit of high five in between the sheep that go.
Oh yeah, there is. Yeah. I think maybe animals are just ebullient and happy creatures that like to express their gratitude and affection for each other.
Yeah, and with no dialogue, you need every technique you can to express stuff.
They're like Americans in that sense, I suppose. Full of enthusiasm for life in the world.
I think you two have earned a fist bump. You should fist bump each other. There we go. All right, thanks for talking with me.
All right, thank you very much.